A good layered photo can be a brilliant way to tell a story or introduce a complex scene in an understandable way to the viewer. And this is a technique that is learnable. Shooting in layers is something that you can learn today and apply it in your work tomorrow. Layers are pretty straightforward, and once the understanding clicks, they are very easy to work with. But somehow, most photographers struggle to understand them and often end up messing them up. So today, we will work on that. We will make sure you are not messing up with your layers. So why your layers don't work? The first issue most photographers struggle with is simply seeing the layers. To see a scene in a layered way. If you cannot see the layer, there is no chance in the world for you to photograph it. So first you need to see and recognize layers on the scene. And here's the question, why don't we naturally see them? Well, let's do a small experiment. Take any objects and hold it in front of you. Now, when you're looking at that object, are you also paying attention to what's happening behind it? Probably not. I'm pretty sure that until I mention it, none of you did. But once I did, you have taken an extra look to see what is there. And this is how eyesight works. It's almost like we're using a telephoto lens with low aperture. Once we look at something in front of us, everything behind becomes blurred. And we can see what happens behind only if we throw another look to that area behind our object. Without that second look, we are focused only on one level of depth of the scene and can't perceive its complexity. Our sight is trying to simplify things for us, and that's fine, but that's not helping us with our layers, right? So what we need to do to be able to recognize layers is to go deeper into the scene and evaluate the depth of the image. We will need to take two or more looks until we see everything that is in front of us, one of the elements close to us and one of the back, and a few more just to get a better idea of what's going on around us. This is a habit that you need to develop in order to be able to find layers, and in general, it's a very good habit to develop to level up your photography composition awareness. So now, following this advice, we will be able to see layered scenes. And with some practice at looking at scenes in such a way, we will learn to recognize layers. And the beauty is that we can practice that even without a camera. One look close, one look far, and mentally connect the scene in front of us. Other reasons your layers don't work. You are not getting close enough. A big mistake is standing too far back from your subjects. Even if a scene has potential, being too distant will make the photo appear flat and lose its feeling of depth. This often comes from discomfort or fear approaching strangers, so fight that fear, get a little bit closer. Another common mistake is using too shallow depth of field, like shooting with wide open apertures, I don't know, f2.8, f2. While shooting this way is a great way for isolating a single subject in a portrait, but in a layered scene, it blurs out foreground and background elements, causing a loss of crucial context and making it difficult to keep multiple layers in focus. This results in photography that lacks visual interest beyond the main subject. I talked about it in many other videos. And of course, no prominent layers. Another mistake I see often is you're doing this run and gun approach. You're just walking around and snapping photos rather than intentionally observing and composing. That's lead to messy photographic composition and missed opportunities for layering shots. Layered compositions require some patience and intentional composing. You can't just run away like a cowboy and trying to capture them on the fly. If you're doing layers, you should always check what is your foreground, what is your middle ground, and what is your background. If you're ignoring the foreground, if your scene layers don't start until the midground, the photo can appear flat and lose its layered effects, regardless to all other elements and whatever you try to do there. Often photographers don't pay attention for overlapping of figures. While some overlap can still work, and sometimes it's okay to overlap, it's usually a mistake allowing elements or people to merge in that way that creates that visual confusing shape. They will be just perceived as a single figure. Clarity for each element should be maintained as much as possible. Working with layers requires you to understand exposure properly. If you have poor light management skills, working with layer is significantly harder, because often you just need to push your camera to the limits, especially if there is not enough light. And of course, there is the wrong gear and settings. It is very hard to do layers with a telephoto lens. It is potentially possible, but you will need to have a lot of space and be quite far from your scene. But not impossible. Still possible, but difficult. I think for normal street photography, everything above 50mm full frame equivalent will make your layering job difficult. Therefore, the best focal length to work with layers will be something between 21-35mm full frame equivalent. Now, when we are shooting in a layered way, we need to make some decisions. How many depths are we going for? 2 depths and a background, 3 depths and a background, or even more? Why I'm asking that? Because we need to understand what kind of depth of field we will be using. But I don't want to go too technical with you, so let's go through some examples and break it down step by step. We will work from simple layers to more complex one. So let's first look at flat image, an image that is two-dimensional and has no perception of depth. In this kind of images, we will have our main objects of interest and a background. That's it. These images contain one or more subjects, but the amount of subjects doesn't matter because they're all spread across two dimensions. Even with multiple elements and good storytelling, it's just them on a background. There is no layered structure there. The minimal requirement for a layer is to have at least 3 levels of depth. You can of course have more, but 3 is the minimum. Foreground, which will be our first layer, middle ground, our second layer, and background, our third and final layer. So the simple layer is made up of 2 elements on different levels of depth plus the background. That gives us that 3-dimensional feelings in a 2-dimensional photograph. Let's see some simple layer examples. One object which is closer to the camera and the second one which is further away, and it all finishes with a nice background. On this first image, the focus is on the first object, the one that is closer to the camera. He is the more important one. The second one is complementing the story and serving as a supporting actor to our main character. Therefore, we have one that is important close to us, the second one that is supporting the story, and the background. On the second image though, we have it the other way around. We have the second person in focus, and the first is there just to add extra context and give us that 3-dimensional feeling. But you will most likely say now, wait, aren't they both supposed to be in focus? Well, in traditional understanding of layers, not necessarily. But if we're looking at the street photography approach, people would usually try to have both objects, meaning both depths in focus. So here we have it in a more traditional approach. Again, 2 objects, one closer to the camera, one further away, but relatively in focus. And this is more or less what is expected. This photograph is shot on a crop sensor camera at f11 and on a f18mm lens. So it's something like 28mm full frame equivalent. The reason why the woman is not too sharp is that I'm too close to her, and the distance from her to the soldier boy is too large to hold everything in focus. And the focus, by the way, is on the soldier boy. So by now you might be already getting what is going on here from a technical perspective. To be able to execute layers technically, you really need to understand the concept of depth of field. I do not have video about that yet, but it's planned and coming soon. So if you are not subscribed yet, perhaps it's the time to do it. So we saw how simple layers work. Now let's speak about complex layers. With complex layers, you will need to pay attention to 3 things. The first is subject separation. All your subjects shouldn't overlap because that will make them perceived as a single object or will just create a visual mess. The second one is distance. The objects need to be separate from each other, but also not too far away in terms of depth. You don't want your layers to run too deep. It weakens the photograph. And the third thing is the background and a clear ending. To have a successful layer, you will need to have a clear ending, something to show the viewer, okay, we are finishing here. We run through the layer and that's the ending point. It doesn't matter how many depths we are capturing, the ending should be clear. Now, so far we have spoken about the technical part of the layering process, but let's see what makes our layers even better. The key for interesting layers is having a different story going on at each and every depth of the layer. This is the holy grail. That is where the real mastery comes in. Having the same story going through depths is nice, but being able to connect multiple story elements through layering, that's hard. I'll show you 2 images. This one is mine. You can see how through layering I've managed to interconnect multiple unrelated elements into one single story that coexists in a single frame. And the second one is this iconic image by Alex Webb, where he used light and layering again to connect different stories into one cohesive image. Just brilliant. So now let's try and summarize things. Let's pick lenses. A 35mm equivalent lens is often considered as the ideal one. It provides a natural look while being wide enough to compose with multiple elements and have some complexity. Photographers like Alex Webb are known for using the 35mm. A 28mm equivalent one is also a very strong choice, allowing you to get even closer and feel the frame, making the viewer feel really there. This is my favorite focal length. However, it can make scenes messy if you are not controlling the composition properly and requires getting very close to the subjects. And now about the 50mm lens, I already mentioned it briefly before, can be too tight for layering, making it harder to include enough context or depth. It's better for cleaner compositions, or environmental portraits. I wouldn't recommend trying layering with that one, at least not at the beginning. And I thought I've mentioned 21mm earlier in this video. These can be too wide. It is too difficult to control due to many elements in the frame. You can use them, but you need to be very skilled and have a very high level of mastery composing the elements. And as usual, I recommend using prime lenses over zooms. They act as a creative constraint, forcing you to move your feet, get closer, and be more creative with your framing. Now let's pick camera settings. While there is no single best settings, what we usually try to do with layers is to optimize our camera settings for depth. So for aperture, we will set our cameras at a small aperture value to maximize that depth of field. I recommend starting at least at f8 and preferably f11 or even f16 in good light and when the situation requires it. That ensures that most elements across your foreground, middle ground and background are sharp and in focus. As for shutter speed, it depends on the speed of the photographed objects. But aim for faster shutter speeds, at least 1/250 of a second or ideally 1/500 of a second. And if you need to go faster, you will most likely need to increase your ISO. To compensate for the smaller aperture and the faster shutter speed, we might need to use ISO values of 800 or 1600, yes, even during the day. And if there is not enough light, there is nothing to do, we need to push our ISO higher. The rule of thumb is always prioritize a sharp photo over a noisy one. It's better to have the photo captured. Now let's pick focusing. Where do you focus in the layer? There is no definitive answer here. You might decide focusing on the first layer, considering as more important, but that will affect the depth of field. And the next layer can feel a little bit out of focus. If you just want to show the structure, you can try focus somewhere in the middle. That will give you a larger depth of field and you will have more elements in focus. Or you can just focus on what you feel is more important. That's how usually I work. You can use both autofocus and zone focusing, but if you decide using autofocus, just make sure that you're using a single focus point. And that point should be pointed to the exact point of interest, the exact point that you want to focus. Because when there's a layering and the scene is complex, if you're using more focus points, the camera can decide to focus on something else, not what you intended to. Now, what affects the layer structure? Well, it is mainly about figuring out the depth of field. Apart from using wide lenses and higher apertures, consider your distance from the subject. The closer you are, the chances are that it might affect the depth of field, and you will need to go higher with your aperture value. Sometimes even f16 is not enough, and it's worth taking a step back, make sure that you have everything in focus, and if that causes you to have some extra space on the sides of the frame, you can crop them after that. Yes, I said cropped, but this is a decision, you have no choice here. The other consideration is distance between the subjects. We said we want them to be relatively close from each other, but not letting them spread 30 meters in depth or 100 feet in depth. That will just weaken the layer significantly. And of course, the subjects should be properly separated so we can perceive them individually. And at the end, it all should end with clear ending, a background or natural ending of the story. Now let's see some bonus tips. We can use light to enhance our layers, just like the photo of Alex Webb. Lighting plays a crucial role in emphasizing different layers. Utilize natural light and shadows to highlight various elements within your scene. This will add additional depth and dimension. Combine your layers with other techniques. Experiment with leading lines, framing, and other compositional tools to further enhance the layered effect. You remember this photograph that I showed you earlier? I used all other geometrical elements to enhance the layer and build the viewer journey through the image. First your eye goes to the dog, then you have the stairs taking you to the monkey and the woman, and then you see the guy downstairs, framed. So apart from layering, take full advantage of the geometry. And guys, please don't do layers just for the layer's sake. Simply combining these multiple elements into a frame without some interest or any idea, it's a common pitfall. The goal is not just to have layers, but those layers to tell and contribute to some kind of story, meaning or narrative. But to really master your layers, it's essential to practice and experiment with different compositions. Spend time observing your surroundings and identify potential layers. And engage with your environment and be patient. Sometimes the perfect layered composition requires time and persistence to unfold in front of you. Nothing happens in just a single click. Work the scene. Don't just take 1 or 2 photos and move on. Take many photos, 10, 15, 20, sometimes more, from different angles and perspectives to increase your chances to layer things properly and have all the objects separated and just have a betterly looking photo. The best photographs rarely happen in a single snap. And I hope this video was useful, and from now on your layers will get a significant boost. If something was unclear, ask me in the comments and hope to see you again. Happy shooting!